Oh, are we live? I think we might be. Here we go. I believe we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Let's Talk Villa channel. Today we are going to be previewing the Aston Villa versus Tottenham game. Trying to make it a little bit new on the channel with these live streams here. So you'll have to let me know if anyone does come into the chat. Let me know if it is working, because obviously I can't really tell. I'm going to try and get it up on my phone just so, just in case rather, we can make sure that it is all working. There we go. Right, I'm in the live chat. If anyone wants to chat, then please do put a chat in. Like I say, we're going to be trying something a little bit new on the channel today. We are looking at the preview of Aston Villa versus Spurs. If you do enjoy this type of content, leave a like, subscribe down below. This should go live on the channel after this video actually comes out, and we're going to be looking at a couple of things today in terms of Aston Villa versus Spurs. We're going to be looking at my predicted starting lineup, which you can see on the team here, our last results, so that's Tottenham and Villa's, the Premier League form table, Unai Emery's press conference, and Ange Postecoglou's press conference, Mike. We are going to be looking at all of that kind of good stuff, and as well, if any of you guys have any questions, pop them in the live chat Q&A, and we can also answer those as well. But again, the video will come out after. So if you are watching this and it's not live, then just feel free to comment down below. And of course, I will reply to as many as possible. But yes, it is Aston Villa versus Tottenham Hotspurs on Sunday at 2 p.m. And it's a big game for us. Tottenham are one of our top 4/5 rivals in the Premier League. We're both coming off of Carabao Cup games in midweek, slightly different fortunes. We lost to Crystal Palace 2-1. They beat Manchester City 2-1, which we'll go through a little bit later on. But they did play a lot of a stronger team than Aston Villa. And obviously we played a little bit of a weaker team. The result wasn't quite there. I was going to vlog it, but then I'd get caught up in the moment of being at Villa Park. And then, to be fair, within 7 minutes of Erebeche Eze scoring, I was just moody, crossed my arms, and hope to die. But unfortunately, we did make it to 90 minutes, and it was a bit flat, as to be expected. Whereas Tottenham's fortune's completely different. They beat Manchester City, favourites for the Premier League, in a good game, 2-1. And yeah, it could be a tough one. It could be a tough one. But in terms of the Premier League, let's get on to the Premier League form table here. Hopefully that has switched over for you guys in terms of the screen capture. You can see City currently sitting top. We're sitting in 4th at the moment. 18 points, we're 1 point above Chelsea. Everyone's played the same amount of games. 2 points above Brighton, equal with Arsenal, who play Newcastle today, so we'll get a steer on where they're going to be. And then 4 points behind Liverpool, 5 behind Manchester City. Liverpool and City seem to be creating a little bit of daylight in between the rest of the Premier League and themselves. But Arsenal are set again, playing Newcastle. Chelsea have a tough game. Ruben Amorim, I think his name is, his Manchester United team today, obviously, or tomorrow. I think it is actually tomorrow after our game. It's always going to be a tough game. New manager bounce. He's done very well at Sporting Lisbon. So that could be a tough game for them. Brighton and Liverpool, that you could see that going either way, to be fair. Brighton have been really impressive this season. But Tottenham currently sitting 8th. So a little bit behind us. They are 5 points behind us. That could be shortened to 2 points, or it could be extended to 8 after this game. We look at their form table, and it is a little bit dodgy. A 3-1 win over Brentford, a 3-0 win over Manchester United. But then the Brighton and Hove Albion game, they were 2-0 up and cruising. Brighton score 3 goals in 7 minutes, and all of a sudden Tottenham fans are fuming. They come back with a good 4-1 win over West Ham, but I think West Ham are just giving away wins at this point. And then Crystal Palace, who beat us in midweek, or beat our weakened team, beat a full-strength Tottenham 1-0. So their results have been a little bit dodgy per se. 4 losses, 4 wins, only 1 draw. And I think the telling thing for me about sort of Tottenham this season, they were such a free scoring team last year. Only 18 goals, the same amount as Brentford, less than Chelsea, only 2 more than us. And they've conceded 10 as well. And we all know about their high line and the issues that they have with that. But that's the Premier League table. Like I say, a win puts us up to 21 points. Depending on what happens in the Brighton game, that could be 1 point behind Liverpool. We could leapfrog Arsenal and put 3 points in between us and them. Newcastle are a hard team for anyone to play in the Premier League. But that's the Premier League table. Let's look at the team news. So Unai Emery's presser ahead of the Spurs game at Bodymoor Heath. On squad rotation, this is obviously going to be talking about the Carabao Cup. We changed 10 players, I think it was, from the last Premier League game. He said if he played it 100 more times, he'd pick the same starting lineup. That is fine. Now, this last meeting with Tottenham is an interesting one to sort of cover, because last time we played Tottenham, we completely changed everything. We played a 3 or 5 at the back. We tried to be very defensive. I think Emery is wary of Tottenham's attacking threat. They have so many brilliant attacking players. But again, they do play with a high line, and we're going to look to exploit that in the starting lineup that I have come up with as well. But yeah, we did lose 4-0 last time. It was a terrible game. We got completely outplayed. The formation didn't work. We were just bad. We were just bad, and it was such an important game. But maybe the pressure got to the players. I'm not 100% sure. Again, talking about Spurs, we all know Spurs. They're a great team. The main thing to take out of this press conference is one injury. That is it. Just the one injury, which is very, very good to hear. It's Ross Barkley. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks, but obviously with the likes of Tielemans and Onana coming back into the team, you can play John McGinn in that central role. I'd even say that Jacob Ramsey might be able to play that central role for Villa, and we have the option of Boubacar Kamara. I mean, what an option to have off of the bench now. So I think if Onana is going to come off on this game, it probably will be Kamara, who was one of our better performers against Crystal Palace, coming on. So that injury really overall shouldn't affect the team. Obviously, the team should be fresh. A lot of our first team players got a full rest, a whole week off. And I think that probably was Emery's plan when he was picking that Carabao Cup sort of team, to be fair. I can't imagine that he was thinking anything other than, I'm just going to give my first team as a whole week off, because with the Champions League round the corner, that's something they're not going to get. The FA Cup starting up in January as well. So if we go over to Ange Postecoglou's press conference, and luckily for me, Spurs are a little bit nicer in their layout than Aston Villa, and they put the team news right at the top, and the main one, as it says there, is Mickey van der Ven. He is not going to be fit for this game. We know how important he is to Spurs' style of play. Their incredibly high line that Postecoglou is almost to a fault not going to change. He's going to play that high line. We all know he's going to play that high line, and he gets away with it because Mickey van der Ven is one of the fastest defenders in the Premier League, if not the fastest defender in the Premier League, and I'm including the likes of Kyle Walker in that as well. I mean, Mickey van der Ven is an absolute rocket when he gets going, and that allows them to get away with that high line because he can recover so well and so fast. So without him, that's going to be a massive loss. I think we all know that that's going to be a massive loss to Spurs. He's definitely not going to be playing. He's going to be back after the international break. They've also got Romero and Werner the Burner, who were a little bit sore after the game against Manchester City. And Heung-min Son trained today when this came out. So what, that have been yesterday? So yesterday, if he gets through training today, he should be okay to play. Obviously, that'll be a massive one for them if they can get him playing. Probably their best player. He's been their best player consistently for years now. So a couple of injuries for Tottenham compared to our one, which is Ross Barkley, which, like I say, with the grand scheme of things, with Kamara coming back, isn't the biggest sort of loss in the world, unfortunately. But for Spurs, the likes of Mickey van der Ven being out, possibly Heung-min Son, possibly Romero as well, who's one of their other starting centre-backs, it could mean that they have to shuffle things around. And with their high line, the loss of Mickey van der Ven is, it can't be understated how massive that is. So if we look at their last game, you can see here the way they started. Dragusin and Romero at the back again. Romero might be missing for this game as well. Mickey van der Ven definitely will be missing. Gray on the right-hand side, Vicario in goal. Bentancur, Sarr and Kulusevski making up a midfield three, playing in behind Werner the Burner, Brennan Johnson and Dom Solanke. Now they have options off the bench as well. Richarlison, Mickey Moore's been playing very well for them. James Maddison, who you would imagine would start this game, got a full rest, didn't come on in this game. Basuma, Udogie, Ben Davis. So they're going to have options off the bench in this game because they'll be rotating. I imagine they'll go for something like Romero and Dragusin at the back if they can. Udogie coming on at left back. And then I don't know who they play right back at the moment, to be fair. Maybe it is just Gray. I can't say I'm too up to date with their right back situation. In the middle of the park, I would imagine obviously James Maddison probably comes in if you were going to look at that midfield for Kulusevski, and then Basuma comes in for Sarr. I'd imagine they'd start Bentancur, he's one of their better players. And then up front, you can just take an absolute pick and mix of brilliant players. They could play Richarlison, Heung-min Son and Solanke. They could play Johnson, Solanke and Son. They could play Richarlison through the middle and then Johnson and Son. Johnson and Werner with Son up front. There's so many options and they're such a good attacking team. I mean, you look at, if we go up there, their top scorers this season, Son, Johnson, Maddison with a couple, Solanke starting to get in the goals. Now, Kulusevski himself could play in that front three. He's a brilliant player in his own right. So their attacking options are scary, to be honest, quite frankly. And it's going to be a tough game. I think we all know that. And it's at the Spurs Stadium as well. I think it's called the London Stadium. I'm not even sure. Maybe that's Tottenham. Maybe that's West Ham. In terms of our last game, like I say, I was there, but it was a lot of change. Joe Gauci, Ian Matson, Mings, Carlos and Nedeljkovic, McGinn and Kamara, Bundia, Bailey, Philogene and Duran. It was a disappointing game. We looked like we couldn't be arsed. I've already done a video on that on the channel. So go check that out if you want to. But again, where's our first team players in that? You know, I understand that they're all first team players, but in terms of players that we're probably going to start in the Premier League, not that many in there, to be fair. So we've got a lot of fresh legs coming into this Tottenham game, and by God, we are going to need it. So what do I think we will do? Well, anyone in the live chat, if you have any thoughts on this, please do ping something in. But this is what I imagine our lineup will be like, something like this anyway. The only one from the Carabao Cup that comes back into this team will be John McGinn, going on the right-hand side to facilitate Jacob Ramsey on the left. Now, we all know how Spurs play. They're attacking, they're brilliant on the ball, they're free-flowing in attack, but they play that incredibly high line. So we're going to break that down into two parts. In terms of the attack, how do we deal with it? Well, Emi Martinez, the world's #1, confirmed again, got that double trophy. But the main thing as well is he is a fantastic sweeper keeper. He's always alert to over the top balls in behind. And I think Joe Gauci done that very well in the Carabao Cup as well. Clearly something we work on. He's not quite to the extent of Emmanuel Neuer getting lobbed by John Duran from 30 yards, but he knows when to come and he knows when to hold. I think that's going to be really important. They're going to look to be hitting those over-the-top balls to their pacey wingers, especially if Brennan Johnson's going. He's lightning quick. Same with Heung-min Son. So I think that could combat a little bit of that. I think I'm going to go with Digne at left-back. Matson played pretty well in the Carabao Cup, but again, a little bit dodgy at points. And Luca Digne has been absolutely fantastic in the league for us this season, so I don't think you'd look past him to have to deal with the likes of Brennan Johnson possibly on that right-hand side, even maybe Werner, Heung-min Son. We don't know who's going to be playing there. Powell and Konsa at the back for me. Carlos, again, sloppy in midweek, gave the ball away. We know Tottenham are going to press high, and I feel like you just need composure on the ball against Tottenham, and I think Konsa and Powell offer that. I think probably Konsa's a little bit quicker than Diego Carlos as well. And then Matty Cash on the right-hand side, couldn't have another right-back. I did like Nedeljkovic. I thought he played really well against Palace, but I think Cash has that little bit more experience. He is a little bit quicker, probably. Actually, I don't know. Maybe Nedeljkovic is quicker, but we're going to have to be dealing with that pace, and I think he will get the nod. In terms of our midfield, Onana and Tielemans have been probably the best. I mean, they've got to be top 3 midfield combinations in the Premier League this season. I would like to see who else gets close to them. And they're going to have their work cut out, again, looking at the likes of James Maddison, who will be looking to break in between the lines, and then the rest of Tottenham's midfield is also really good. They could, like I say, pick Sarr, Bentancur, Basuma. They could bring anyone in, even Kulusevski as a centre midfielder. But I'll back those two against any midfield. And then obviously McGinn and Ramsey, we're going to be compact against Tottenham, and there are pretty much our starting options. If we wanted to get in behind, then I think later on in the game you could possibly look at maybe subbing McGinn out for Bailey if you wanted to, and that could probably work. Again, they play that high line. But where that high line comes into play is our two strikers, Rodgers and Watkins. Now, Watkins plays on the shoulder of the defender, the last man. We saw it against Bayern Munich. He caused Upamecano loads of problems, and he does that in the Premier League over and over again. And he's going to be playing on the last man, I would assume, against Tottenham as well. And Rodgers is he's the spark, isn't he? He's the magic one. He's going to get a new contract soon, probably, and he is going to be the one that I think we're going to look to feed it into his feet. If he can break in between Bentancur and the Tottenham defence, if he gets a little bit of room to get his head up, to get down, to drive, with Watkins being on the last man, I think we could be in for a high-scoring game. And the same with Tielemans, why he's playing, I think why he's been so important for Villa this season is his passing ability. And if he can pick the ball up deep and get his head up and look for Watkins, if he's already started to make that run with Spurs' high line, Tielemans is going to find that ball 9 out of 10 times. And I think that's probably why Kamara will come on for Onana later on in the game. We saw Kamara do it against Crystal Palace. He picked the ball up deep, he looked up, saw Leon Bailey, bang, one time, first time pass, straight into Bailey, and we managed to get the goal to Duran as well. Duran, I imagine, will come on. I don't know whether he'll come on for Rodgers or Watkins. Like, I feel like you want Watkins running for 90 minutes in behind this Tottenham defence. So possibly we'll see a Duran and Watkins situation with Rodgers maybe going out to the left-hand side. Maybe Ramsey comes off, maybe McGinn comes off, and they swap the sides and Bailey comes on, something like that, to just offer us something new, something different, something fresh later on in the game. I think fresh legs against this Tottenham defence and their high line is really, really important. So I could see that we maybe start the game like this, but I could definitely see us ending a little bit different. So let's chuck Kamara in there. I think maybe Ramsey and Rodgers will swap, with then Rodgers being swapped for Duran if we get him in there, and then McGinn being swapped possibly for Bailey. And I wouldn't even be mad at later in the game getting Maatsen on, giving him some minutes to run down that right-hand side of Spurs. I think that could be really, really impactful. And like I say, when you have Duran and Watkins up front, it offers you something a little bit different. And Rodgers is clearly going to float into the middle there. We all know that's going to happen. Bailey could even get in there, and we could even end up in like a little bit of like a 4-2-1-3 situation later in the game, or even it's really just a 4-3-3 diamond, isn't it? Kamara and Tielemans sit and allow Rodgers just to have whatever freedom he wants, to be honest, because we all know how good he is. And then you add in Maatsen getting down that side as well with Duran, or even Watkins if they swap over. Matty Cash probably giving away 17 penalties, but we just have to deal with it. I think it's going to be a high scoring game though. In terms of like score predictions, I mean, my God, it could literally be anything. I mean, the last game was 4-0 to Spurs. The games before that have been like 2-0s, 2-1s. I can't see a 0-0 draw. That's the one result. I think this is like, maybe it's commentator's curse, they always call it, isn't it? But this is like the one game you think, if a pundit is previewing this game, or when they do it on Sky Sports or whatever, if it's on BT Sky, I don't know, you know what they're going to be saying. They're going to be saying the same thing, isn't it? It's like, I just can't see this one being a 0-0. This is that game that you'd bank on a goal, and I'd probably bank on both teams scoring, to be honest with you. I'm hopeful though. We've rested 10 players in midweek. That should be a big, big positive for Villa over Tottenham, who've had to play a very competitive game against Manchester City, the best team in England. So with those fresh legs, that should actually play into our strengths, and especially play into Spurs' weaknesses of defensively with that high line. I mean, you have a fresh Watkins running behind your defence for 90 minutes. He's going to get a chance. It's just whether he can bury it, and he's been a bit up and down with that this season. But overall, I'm very, very confident going into the game that even if we don't get the 3 points, I think we're going to be competitive enough to at least get one. My heart's always saying a win for Villa. I mean, I don't think my heart ever says a loss, apart from when we played Bayern Munich, and look how that went. So I'm never trusting that thing again. Thinking with my head, I think this could even be a high-scoring draw, like a 2-2, a 3-3. But I'm hoping, coming off of the freshness, Emery's going to be hopefully drilling into them the fact that, like, look, I think we all know that they've kind of just brushed the Carabao Cup to the side. This is where we need to be competitive. This is where we need to put 150% effort from minute 1 to minute 97, or however much added time there's going to be. And I think we have enough to do it. And I think Spurs have been shaky enough to do it as well. They've collapsed a couple of times this season. You think of the game where they conceded 3 goals in like 7 minutes to Brighton. And I think we should have enough to get. We're going to go 2 or 3. We're going to go 3. I'm going to go 3-1. I don't know if that's like the right way up or the wrong way up. One of them. It's going to be a 3-1, I reckon. I'm going to back Villa to go and get the job done in London. Emery has an exemplary record in London for away days. 3-1. I'm going to go Watkins to get 2. And I'm going to go... I think a defender's going to get a goal. I'm going to go Pau Torres to get a goal, maybe from a corner or something like that. That's my prediction, 3-1. I think Spurs might get an early lead. We're shaky at the start of games. We've seen it, and they're so aggressive in their attack. But I think if we can stick to our guns defensively, and this could be a game where everyone gets back and we're that compact and then we look to break, then I think we have goals in us. I think Watkins has a couple of goals in him, and I think we could get the job done. And there we have it, our preview. I know it's the first one I've done. It's at a bit of a dodgy time. I do apologise. But like I say, these videos will be coming hopefully in the future. If time allows, and if stuff allows around it, I'll probably do the previews and reviews live to get you guys involved. So if you do want to ever get involved in these live streams, then pop something in the live chat. I've got it up so I can see it in case anyone does have any questions, and I'll be looking to answer all of them. We can get a good healthy discussion going, but if not, I'll see you guys on Monday probably for the review of this game. And as always, up the Villa, be nice to everyone, and I'm going to try and end the stream now. Let's